For our third installment of the Greco-Persian War, we will look at and explore the events surrounding the Battle of Thermopylae in ancient Greece during the summer of 480 BCE. The battle was sparked by the increasing hostility between the Persians and the Greeks. The animosity between these two distinct cultures first started way back when the Persian king Cyrus the Great had forced the Greek settlement of Ionia in Asia Minor to surrender to Persian domination. The Greek distaste for Persian supremacy officially became visible when Aristagoras, remember him from the Ionian Revolt? Aristagoras, the Greek regent of the Ionian town of Miletus, had endeavored to lead an Ionian revolt against the Persians with the assistance of Eretria and Athens, Greek city-states across the Aegean Sea. At the end of the Ionian Revolt in 494 BCE, this led to the destruction of Miletus by the Persians, and formed in the Greek minds a deep-seated resentment and desire to seek revenge. This would ultimately drive the conflicting nations into the destructive Greco-Persian Wars. And it was in response to the unsuccessful Persian invasion of Greece at the Battle of Marathon, the first of the Greco-Persian Wars in 490 BCE, that the Persians became motivated to strengthen their army and prepare to invade Greece once more. You see, the Battle of Marathon had proved to be an immense failure for the Persians, because even though they had intended to attack Athens and Eretria for their role in the Ionian Revolt, the Athenian strength and heavily armored Athenian army caught the Persians by surprise, causing them to retreat. Remember, they had made a charge at the Persian army and defeated them. Well, this humiliating Persian defeat at the Battle of Marathon heightened indignation and led the Persian army to seek further vengeance on the Greeks, and this would take place at the Battle of Thermopylae, the second Persian invasion of Greece. In the summer of 480 BCE, the Persian king Xerxes I led his substantial army and navy of 200,000 men across the Hellespont from Asia Minor to mainland Greece in an attempt to conquer the whole of Greece. The Greek states of Athens and Sparta allied with one another under the leadership of the Spartan king Leonidas to protect Greece from the Persian invasion. They believed that their most effective strategy in fending off Persian warriors would be to defend and protect the narrow pass of Thermopylae located in central Greece, for this was the place that allowed access to Athens. By blockading Thermopylae, the Persians would be unable to access Athens, thereby preventing them from being able to attack Athens. As the massive army of Persians approached the weakly defended pass, the Greek army of nearly 7,000 valiantly and bravely traveled north to block the small pass. They successfully guarded Thermopylae through 2 full days of battle. It's interesting to note that on the first day of battle, the Immortals, a superior group of 10,000 Persian soldiers under the leadership of the Persian commander Hydarnes, were unsuccessful in assaulting the Greeks. In fact, the Greeks, who possessed incredible battle tactics and strategies, were able to wound several of the Immortals. It was only when a Malian man named Ephialtes betrayed Greece by showing the Persians a mountain path around Thermopylae that the Persians gained the upper hand and were able to surround the Greek army. With the newfound knowledge that there was a traitor amongst the Greeks, King Leonidas dismissed the bulk of his army and remained at Thermopylae with 300 courageous Spartans who were aware that death certainly awaited them at the pass. Yet, despite their inevitable defeat, the Spartans were determined to protect the fate of Greece over the fate of the individual. Even 700 Thespians, as Herodotus explains, stayed entirely of their own accord, refusing to retreat and declaring that they would not forsake Leonidas and his followers. In addition, 400 Thebans followed Leonidas and the rest of the warriors to the pass, albeit they were hostages and assisted the Greeks kind of unhappily. As Herodotus concludes, the Greeks under Leonidas, as they now went forth determined to die, advanced much further than on previous days until they reached the more open portion of the pass. The Spartans and their allies were not fearful in the face of death, and remained completely loyal to Greece even when the Persian army surrounded them with mighty pomp and splendor, and totally exterminated the small group of Greeks who defended Thermopylae with such courage and strength. It is said that the Persian king Xerxes, known for his raging temper and angry demeanor, ordered that Leonidas be decapitated and crucified. These acts were unusual for the Persians, who believed in treating brave warriors with honor. But Xerxes was said to have possessed such a raging temper that he is rumored to have once whipped the waters of the Hellespont for disobeying him. Now, Brill's companion to Herodotus mentions that Xerxes chastising the Hellespont has usually been interpreted as proof of Xerxes' violent and irascible temper. But our knowledge of ritual and religious behavior of Persian kings is so limited that the assumption of Xerxes acting out his personal anger is hazardous. So, in other words, let's reserve judgment on Xerxes' character for the moment and get back to the conflict at hand. After the Battle of Thermopylae, the Persians entered Athens. But thanks to the Spartans' stand at Thermopylae, they had bought the Athenians time, and the Athenian people and Greek navy were able to be evacuated to an island off the coast of Athens. The Greco-Persian Wars would continue to rage on, and we'll cover that in our next installment. But back to Thermopylae. When the Persian invasion ended, the Greek people placed a statue at Thermopylae to honor the memory of their highly esteemed King Leonidas. While the ancient Greek statue is no longer there, Greeks today still commemorate the battle and heroic stand of Leonidas and his 300 Spartans. According to Gonda van Steen, Thermopylae was, quote, the spot of the famous battle where the 300 Spartans laid down their lives on behalf of Greece, end quote. And it is a site that continues to celebrate Spartan military virtue and sacrifice. In fact, in a lecture given on the topic of freedom, Spartan heralds were said to have discussed with the Persian commander Hydarnes how the Greeks esteemed virtue over wealth and often connected their freedom with their military valor. The Persians were unable to comprehend these Greek values. In fact, Xerxes was reported to have been bewildered by the calm demeanor of the Spartans. Just before the battle at Thermopylae, when the soldiers were aware of their certain death, but apparently regarded their sacrifice in defending their lands as an honorable act of military valor, and so they didn't get panicked. These warriors were acting in accordance to the Spartan belief that a soldier puts the welfare of the state before the welfare of the individual. Even Aristodemos, one of the few survivors of the 300 Spartans at Thermopylae, felt compelled to die a glorious death because of the tragedy that befell his people and the dishonor of being one of the only survivors. The Battle of Thermopylae led to further conflicts between the Persians and the Greeks, and inspired 2 further Greco-Persian battles at Salamis and Plataea. By the way, both of them were Greek victories. The conflict between the Persians and the Greeks caused the Greeks to aspire to unify their states, later on through the Delian League, a league uniting the Greek city-states in a permanent alliance against Persia. At its height, it would encompass 150 city-states, or poleis, but eventually it fell apart owing to individual ambitions of certain poleis and caused the Athenians and Spartans to lose trust in one another. That's another story for another day. We hope you've learned a few things about the Battle of Thermopylae and its place in Greek history. In the meantime, here is a quick summary of the Battle of Thermopylae in case you have any questions. Thank you for watching, and tune in for our next installment on the Greco-Persian Wars.